My name is Madison, and I'm 35 years old. 10 years ago, my sister didn't just steal my fiancé, she stole him 3 days before our wedding, with 200 guests already confirmed, my dress hanging in the closet, and our honeymoon to Santorini fully paid. But that betrayal was nothing compared to what happened at our family reunion last month, when she stood in front of 40 relatives and mocked me for still being single. What she didn't know was that the quiet man sitting in the black car outside was about to change everything, and her husband's career was about to end with a single document. Before I share what happened that night, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with stories about family betrayal and the patient power of karma. I'm curious where you're watching from. Drop your location and local time in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now let me take you back to that evening when everything finally came full circle. The Rosewood restaurant had been Mom's choice. Private dining room, crystal chandeliers, the works. 40 family members gathered for what she called a celebration of family bonds. I almost laughed at the irony. I'd deliberately chosen the corner seat, the one partially hidden by the flower arrangement. Not hiding exactly, just strategic positioning. My phone buzzed with a text. ETA 45 minutes. Are you sure about this? I typed back, trust me, then slipped my wedding ring off and into my purse. We'd agreed, no reveals until the perfect moment. The doors swept open at exactly 7:15. Sophia entered like she was walking a red carpet, Richard trailing behind her in his overpriced suit. She'd spent a fortune on that dress. I recognized the designer immediately. The same designer who'd made my wedding dress, actually. The one still hanging in storage. Madison! Her voice carried across the room, ensuring everyone noticed her greeting me. Oh my goodness, you came! I wasn't sure you would. 40 pairs of eyes swiveled between us. The family telegraph had been working overtime for the past decade. Everyone knew the story. Poor Madison, left at the altar. Lucky Sophia, swept off her feet by true love. Richard couldn't meet my eyes. 10 years, and he still couldn't look at me directly. His hair was thinning. I noticed that with a detached sort of satisfaction. The stress of his company's recent troubles, perhaps? He didn't know I knew about those troubles. He didn't know I knew a lot of things. Of course I came, I said, voice steady. Family is family. Sophia's smile sharpened. She air-kissed relatives as she made her way around the table, but I could feel her attention on me like a spotlight. She wanted an audience for whatever she had planned. The seating arrangement wasn't accidental. She'd placed herself directly across from me with the best lighting, the perfect angle for everyone to see us both. Richard sat beside her, fidgeting with his water glass. Mom tried to keep things light, bless her. She talked about Cousin Emma's new baby, Uncle Robert's retirement. But I could see Sophia getting impatient. She hadn't orchestrated this reunion just for small talk. My phone buzzed again. A simple message. In position. I smiled and tucked it away. Sophia noticed, her eyes narrowing slightly. The show was about to begin. So, Madison? Sophia's voice cut through Mom's story about the garden club. Tell everyone what you've been up to. Still at that, what was it? Data entry job? Strategic consulting, I corrected quietly. Right, right. She waved her hand dismissively, her 3-carat diamond catching the light. And still living in that studio apartment downtown? I worry about you in that neighborhood. I lived in a penthouse, actually, but she didn't need to know that. I'm comfortable. Comfortable. She repeated the word like it tasted bitter. Well, I suppose that's something. And dating anyone special? Her tone suggested she already knew the answer. The table went quiet. Forks paused midair. This was what they'd been waiting for. The Madison status update served with a side of humiliation. I keep busy, I said. Oh, Madison. Sophia's sigh was theatrical. Still single at 35? Honey, you need to be realistic about your options at this age. The good ones are all taken. She squeezed Richard's arm. He looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. Aunt Helen tried to intervene. Now, Sophia. I'm just concerned. Sophia's eyes were bright with false sympathy. I mean, look around this table. Everyone's paired up except… She let the silence speak for itself. Some women just aren't meant to keep a man interested, I suppose. No shame in that. I felt my phone vibrate. Another text. I didn't check it, but I knew what it said. Almost time. Remember when we were kids? Sophia continued, warming to her theme. Madison always said she'd be married first, had her whole wedding planned by age 12, even had a scrapbook. She laughed, and a few relatives joined in nervously. Life has a funny way of shuffling the deck, doesn't it? Richard finally spoke, his voice barely audible. Sophia, maybe… What? I'm being supportive. Madison knows I only want the best for her. She turned back to me. Have you tried online dating? I could help you set up a profile. We'd need good photos, though. Maybe lose a few pounds first. Men can be so visual. I slipped my hand into my purse, fingers finding the cool metal of my wedding ring. Not yet. The timing had to be perfect. That's kind of you, I said. But unnecessary. Her smile widened. She thought she was winning. Oh, but I insist. Sophia pulled out her phone, swiping through photos. Look, Richard's colleague just got divorced. Well, he's got a steady job at least. Accounting. Bit boring, but beggars can't be choosers, right? Sophia. Mom's warning tone was ignored. Or there's my trainer's brother. He's 48, 3 kids, bit of a drinking problem, but he's working on it. She showed me a photo of a man who looked like he'd given up somewhere around his second divorce. He owns his own car. The relatives shifted uncomfortably. Cousin Janet whispered something to her husband. Uncle Pete suddenly found his salad fascinating. That's enough, Richard muttered, but Sophia was on a roll. I'm helping. God knows someone needs to. Madison, sweetie, you can't wait forever. Your eggs are literally expiring as we speak. Maybe you should freeze some? I know a clinic. I said that's unnecessary. My voice stayed level, but I saw Mom grip Dad's hand. Don't be proud. There's no shame in accepting reality. Not everyone gets the fairy tale. She lifted her wine glass, diamond bracelet catching the light. 10 years ago today, actually. Our anniversary's next week. Can you believe it's been a decade? She knew exactly what she was doing. 10 years ago this month, I should have been celebrating my own anniversary. Richard surprised me with a trip to Santorini for our honeymoon, she continued, twisting the knife. Wasn't that spontaneous of him? Santorini, where Richard and I had planned to go. On the tickets I'd bought. With the itinerary I'd spent months planning. Richard's face had turned gray. Sophia, please. What? Oh! She pressed her hand to her chest in mock surprise. Was that? I'm so sorry, Madison. I forgot you'd mentioned wanting to go there someday. How thoughtless of me. My phone lit up with an incoming call. The name on the screen made me smile, though I declined the call. One text. 5 minutes out, legal team with me. Expecting someone? Sophia asked, noticing my expression. Actually, yes. Oh my God, did you actually bring a date? Madison, why didn't you say something? Is he parking? Can he not afford valet? She was practically gleaming with anticipation of fresh prey. I stood slowly, smoothing my dress. Excuse me for just a moment. Time to put on my wedding ring. In the bathroom, I stared at my reflection and let myself remember what the last 10 years had really cost me. After Sophia's betrayal, I'd become the family cautionary tale. Poor Madison, whispered at every gathering. Thank God you dodged that bullet, they'd say, as if Richard leaving me for my sister was somehow fortunate. The humiliation had been complete, public, and devastating, and I'd lost more than just a fiancé. Business connections evaporated. Who wants to work with the woman who couldn't even keep her own sister from stealing her man? I'd been passed over for promotions, excluded from social circles, treated like failure was contagious. One potential investor actually told me, if you can't manage your personal life, how can you manage a company? But here's what Sophia never understood. Rock bottom is solid ground to build on. While she was posting honeymoon photos on Instagram, I was working 18-hour days. While she was spending Richard's money on designer bags, I was eating ramen and pouring every penny into my startup. While she played trophy wife at country club lunches, I was in boardrooms fighting for every contract, every client, every chance to prove them all wrong. The company I'd built, Madison Strategic Solutions, started in my studio apartment with one laptop and pure determination. Now we had 3 offices, 50 employees, and had just closed the deal that would change everything. Last week's acquisition wasn't just business, it was poetic justice delivered with a legal seal. My phone buzzed. Daniel. Pulling up now? You sure you want to do this? I typed back, 10 years sure. Daniel understood. He'd been there for the last 3 years, watching me rebuild not just my career, but my entire sense of self. He'd proposed on a Tuesday morning over coffee and contracts, no fanfare, no audience, just us and the truth of what we'd built together. We'd married quietly 6 months later, only our lawyers present as witnesses. Your sister doesn't define you, he'd said on our wedding night. But if you need to face her to move forward, I'll be right there with you. I slipped my wedding ring on, a simple band with an inscription only we knew about. No giant diamond screaming for attention, just solid platinum, unbreakable. Walking back to the dining room, I heard Sophia's voice carrying down the hallway. Probably crying in the bathroom, she always was too sensitive. I paused at the doorway, taking in the scene. 40 relatives, all uncomfortable but unable to look away from the train wreck Sophia was orchestrating. Richard had his head in his hands. Mom looked ready to intervene but didn't know how. Perfect. An audience was exactly what this moment needed. I returned to my seat with measured steps. Sophia brightened, ready for round 2. Everything okay? She asked with false concern. You were gone a while. Bad sushi, maybe? Everything's perfect, actually. I picked up my water glass with my left hand, letting the light catch my wedding ring. Sophia's eyes locked onto it immediately. What's that? What's what? On your finger. Is that? Before I could answer, the door to the private dining room opened. The temperature in the room seemed to shift. Sorry to interrupt. Daniel's voice was calm, professional. I'm looking for my wife. The silence was absolute. I know this is exactly the moment you've been waiting for, when the tables finally turn. If you've ever been underestimated, betrayed by family, or told you weren't good enough, this next part is for you. Take a second to hit that subscribe button if this story resonates with you. And I'm curious, what would you have done in my position? Would you have revealed the truth earlier, or waited like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let me tell you exactly what happened when Daniel walked into that room. Wife? Sophia's voice cracked on the word. Madison, you're married? I stood, walking over to Daniel. He kissed my temple, a gesture so natural and familiar that it couldn't be faked. Everyone, this is Daniel, my husband. 3 years next month, Daniel added pleasantly, though his eyes were taking in everything. Sophia's shocked face, Richard's growing pallor, the relatives' stunned expressions. 3 years? Mom gasped. Madison, why didn't you? We wanted privacy, I said simply. After everything that happened, we decided our life together wasn't anyone's entertainment. Sophia recovered quickly, her smile sharp as glass. Well, how surprising. What do you do, Daniel? Teacher? Social worker? Something noble but poor, I'm sure. Daniel's smile didn't waver. I work in acquisitions. Oh, like real estate? She was trying to regain control. That's nice. Tough market these days. Richard's actually in real estate development. Very successful. Aren't you, darling? Richard looked like he was going to be sick, because he recognized Daniel. I saw the exact moment recognition hit. His face went from gray to white. Not real estate, Daniel clarified. Corporate acquisitions. We just closed a rather significant deal last week, actually. Datatech Global acquired Pinnacle Development Group. The name hung in the air like a bomb about to detonate. That's... Sophia's voice faltered. That's Richard's company. Was, Daniel corrected gently. Was Richard's company. Richard stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You're Daniel Chen. You're the CEO of Datatech. Guilty. Daniel's tone remained conversational. Though I prefer to think of myself as Madison's husband first. The CEO thing is just a day job. Sophia's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. But you... Madison, you married? The man who just bought your husband's company? Yes. I kept my voice neutral, professional. Though that's not why I married him, obviously. The acquisition was just business. Just business, Richard repeated faintly. Daniel checked his phone. Speaking of which, my legal team should be here any moment. We discovered some interesting discrepancies during the due diligence process. Richard, you signed a non-compete agreement 5 years ago, correct? Richard's silence was answer enough. Funny thing about shadow companies, Daniel continued. They always leave traces. Digital footprints, paper trails, transfers to offshore accounts that match exactly with funds missing from Pinnacle's books. The door opened again. 2 people in severe suits entered carrying briefcases. Madison, Sophia whispered. You did this. No, I said quietly. Richard did this. I just married a man who believes in thorough documentation. This is ridiculous. Sophia stood, her wineglass shaking in her hand. You can't just... This is a family dinner, not a business meeting. You're right, Daniel said mildly. Which is why we'll keep this brief. Mr. Morrison? He nodded to one of the lawyers. The lawyer placed a folder on the table in front of Richard. Mr. Hayes, this is your termination notice, effective immediately. Your violations of the non-compete clause, combined with embezzlement of company funds, give Datatech Global full grounds for immediate dismissal without severance. Embezzlement? Aunt Helen gasped. That's a lie, Sophia shrieked, but Richard's face told the truth. $2 million redirected to a shell company in the Caymans, the lawyer continued, all documented, all traceable. Mom stood up. Perhaps we should... No, Sophia pointed at me, her perfectly manicured nails shaking. This is her. She planned this whole thing. She's trying to destroy us out of jealousy. Jealousy? I kept my voice level. Of what exactly? Of what Richard and I have. Of our love. You never got over him choosing me. Richard finally spoke, his voice hollow. He didn't choose you, Sophia. You told him Madison was cheating. You showed him fake texts. He stopped, seeming to realize he was destroying his own marriage. The revelation rippled through the room. Mom's hand went to her mouth. Dad's face darkened. You knew? I asked Richard quietly. You knew she lied, and you married her anyway? The money, he whispered. Her trust fund. I needed it for the company. I was going to tell you after you used my sister's money to build your business? I almost felt sorry for Sophia as understanding dawned on her face. So you both betrayed me, I said. You for money, her for... what? The win? Sophia sank into her chair. It wasn't supposed to. You were always Mom's favorite, always the smart one, the responsible one. I just wanted something that was mine. So you took mine. I turned to Daniel. I think we're done here. Almost, he said. Mr. Hayes, you have 24 hours to clean out your office. Security will escort you. Oh, and the company car, the corporate cards, the country club membership, all terminated. You can't. Our house is mortgaged through the company. Sophia's voice was rising toward hysteria. Then I suggest you start packing, Daniel said simply. The room was silent, except for Sophia's ragged breathing. There's one more thing, I said, reaching into my purse. Since we're clearing the air. I pulled out a business card and slid it across the table to Sophia. She picked it up with trembling fingers. Madison Chen, CEO and founder, Madison Strategic Solutions, she read aloud. What is this? My company. The one I built while you were playing house with stolen goods. I kept my voice conversational. We specialize in helping businesses identify vulnerabilities, inefficiencies, fraud. Understanding dawned in Richard's eyes. You're the consultant, the one who flagged our accounts for audit. Datatech hired us 6 months ago to evaluate potential acquisitions. Imagine my surprise when Pinnacle Development came across my desk. I paused. I recused myself immediately, of course. Conflict of interest. But my team is very thorough. You set us up, Sophia whispered. No. You set yourselves up 10 years ago. I just built something better from the ashes you left behind. Daniel's hand found mine under the table. Madison's company has grown 300% in the last 2 years. We're actually competitors in some markets, though she's beating us in several sectors. You married your competitor? Uncle Pete asked, genuinely curious. I married the woman who challenged me to be better, Daniel corrected. The merger talks between our companies are separate. Madison insisted on independent counsel for that. Merger? Mom finally found her voice. Next quarter, I confirmed. The new entity will be the largest strategic consulting firm on the East Coast. Sophia laughed, but it was bitter, broken. So you win. You got everything. I earned everything, I corrected. While you were spending Richard's money, which was really your trust fund apparently, I was working 100-hour weeks. While you were posting pictures of your perfect life, I was in therapy learning to trust again. While you were mocking me for being single, I was building a marriage based on actual love and respect. Don't pretend you didn't plan this revenge, she spat. 6 months ago, when Pinnacle came up for acquisition, I could have destroyed you both. One word to Daniel, one hint about the personal connection, and he would have walked away from the deal. I stood gathering my things. But I didn't, because you two destroying yourselves required no intervention from me. Richard was staring at the termination papers. What am I supposed to do now? That's not my problem anymore. I turned to the room. It never was. Earlier in the evening, before Daniel arrived, there had been signs, if anyone had been paying attention. Richard's been so stressed lately, Sophia had mentioned casually over appetizers, not knowing I was listening. Some tech company's been sniffing around Pinnacle. They're being so aggressive with their offer. Aunt Helen had asked, but that's good, isn't it? A buyout? Richard says they're vultures, picking apart every little detail, acting like they own the place already. She'd laughed then, confident. But he'll handle them, he always does. I'd almost smiled at that. Richard's definition of handling things usually involved creative accounting and hoping no one looked too closely. Then there was the moment when Cousin Marcus, who worked in tech, mentioned Datatech's recent expansion. They're acquiring everything, he'd said. My company's hoping to partner with them. Their CEO is brilliant. Young guy, Daniel Chen. They say he never makes a move without knowing every angle. Sophia had perked up. Chen? That's a common name. Lots of Chens in tech. Not like this one. He's different. Married, apparently, but keeps his personal life completely private. No one even knows who his wife is. I'd sipped my water, feeling my ring hidden in my purse, and said nothing. Even Mom had unknowingly added a piece. Madison, that consulting firm of yours, do you work with tech companies? Sometimes, I'd answered. She probably fetches coffee for real consultants, Sophia had interjected, not knowing that Datatech's entire acquisition strategy for the quarter had my signature on it. The biggest clue had been Richard himself. He'd been checking his phone obsessively, his face growing more concerned with each message. At one point, he'd stepped out to make a call, and through the glass doors, I could see him gesticulating angrily. When he'd returned, Sophia had asked, "Everything okay?" The tech company moved up the timeline. They want to finalize tomorrow. He'd downed his whiskey in one gulp. Their CEO is coming personally to review the contracts. So meet with him, Sophia had said breezily. Charm him like you charmed me. Richard had looked sick even then. I don't think charm works on someone like Daniel Chen. No, I'd thought, watching him squirm. It doesn't. Daniel values honesty above all else. It's one of the reasons I love him. And now, as Daniel's legal team laid out the full scope of Richard's fraudulent activities, everyone could see the truth that had been in front of them all along. The signs had all been there. They just hadn't been looking. Wait! Sophia stood up so fast her chair tipped backward. Madison, please. We're sisters. You can't do this to me. The room held its breath. Even Daniel's lawyers paused. Do what to you? I asked. Tell the truth? That's all that's happening here, Sophia. The truth is finally catching up. She moved toward me, and I saw tears, real ones, not the crocodile tears she'd perfected in childhood. I'll lose everything. The house, the cars, my friends. Your friends who only like you for Richard's money? I asked. Those aren't friends, Sophia. You don't understand. I'm pregnant. The room gasped. Richard's head snapped up. What? 8 weeks, she whispered. I was going to announce it tonight. That's why I wanted the family dinner. For a moment, I felt the old Madison stirring, the one who always gave in, always forgave, always put family first. Daniel's hand tightened on mine, grounding me. Congratulations, I said simply. That changes nothing regarding Richard's crimes. Crimes, Madison, he made some mistakes. He stole $2 million, Sophia. That's not a mistake, it's a felony. She turned to our parents. Mom, Dad, please, talk to her. Mom looked torn, but Dad spoke first. You made your bed, Sophia. Both of you. So you're all just going to let her destroy me because I fell in love? You didn't fall in love, I said quietly. You saw something that was mine and decided you wanted it, just like when we were kids. My toys, my clothes, my friends, and finally, my fiancé. That's not... 3 days before my wedding, Sophia, you seduced him 3 days before I was supposed to marry him. Do you know what that did to me? You survived. Look at you now. Yes, look at me now. I stood straighter. But not because of time healing wounds or forgiveness making me stronger. I survived because I decided I was worth more than what you and Richard thought of me. Daniel stepped forward. The acquisition will proceed as planned. Richard's termination stands. However, given the circumstances, we won't pursue criminal charges if Richard cooperates fully with the transition. And if he doesn't? Sophia asked. Then he goes to prison, and you'll be raising that child alone anyway. Richard finally spoke. I'll cooperate. Sophia turned on him. That's it? You're just giving up? It's over, Sophia. It's been over since the moment we built our life on a lie. She stood there, designer dress, perfect makeup, and completely shattered. I walked to the head of the table where Sophia had been holding court all evening. The spotlight position she'd chosen so carefully now felt like an interrogation lamp. 10 years ago, you gave a toast at your wedding, I said, addressing the room. You said, sometimes love chooses for us, and we just have to follow our hearts. Remember that, Sophia? She nodded mutely. You were wearing my grandmother's necklace, the one she left specifically to me. You convinced Mom I'd want you to wear it, for tradition. I touched my bare throat. I never got it back. Madison, Mom started. You served my wedding cake design. You went to my florist. You even hired the photographer I'd booked. I listed each item calmly. You didn't just take Richard. You took my entire wedding and made it yours. The relatives were shifting uncomfortably. Some hadn't known these details. But here's what you didn't take, I continued. My ability to rebuild, my work ethic, my integrity. You couldn't take those because they weren't things you could see or steal. They were inside me. Daniel moved to stand beside me. Madison built her company from nothing. No trust fund, no connections through marriage, just talent and determination. While you were honeymooning in Santorini, on my non-refundable tickets, by the way, I was sleeping in my office because I couldn't afford rent. I looked at Richard. While you were using Sophia's trust fund to build Pinnacle, I was eating ramen and wearing the same suit to every pitch meeting. We didn't know, Richard began. You didn't care, I corrected. You were too busy playing success to notice actual success being built. I pulled out my phone and showed a photo to the room. This is our actual wedding. City Hall. Just us, two witnesses, and a judge. No stolen designs, no drama, no family politics. Just love. It's beautiful, Mom said softly. It's real, I replied. That's the difference. Sophia was crying now, mascara running in black streams. So what happens now? Now? Daniel and I go home to our life. You and Richard figure out yours. And this family, I looked around the table, decides whether it wants to keep enabling toxic behavior or finally set some boundaries. You're cutting us off? Sophia gasped. I'm cutting myself free, I corrected. There's a difference. The room fell silent, the weight of truth finally settling over everyone like dust after an explosion. This is the moment where everything changes, not just for me, but for our entire family dynamic. If you've ever had to stand up to toxic family members or set hard boundaries with people you love, you know how difficult this moment is. What would you do in this situation? Would you help your pregnant sister despite the betrayal, or hold firm to your boundaries? I genuinely want to know your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. And if this story is resonating with you, please hit that subscribe button. Now, let me tell you how it all ended. Daniel stepped forward, commanding the room's attention with his quiet authority. Before we leave, there's something else everyone should know. He pulled out his phone and showed a photo to the room. This is Madison 3 years ago when we met. She was pitching to my board of directors, the only consultant brave enough to tell us our expansion strategy was flawed. She saved us $40 million that day. You never told me that, I said, surprised. You never asked for credit. That's when I knew you were different. He turned to Sophia and Richard. Your wife, Richard, takes credit for everything, even things she hasn't done. Madison refuses credit even for her victories. This isn't about, Sophia started. It's about character. Daniel cut her off. When I did my due diligence on Pinnacle, I didn't know about the personal connection. Madison had hidden it that well. She could have sabotaged you months ago with one word. She didn't. The lawyer, Mr. Morrison, spoke up. We discovered the connection during final review. Mrs. Chen immediately recused herself and brought in external consultants to verify our findings. Every piece of evidence against Mr. Hayes was found independently. So this wasn't revenge? Aunt Helen asked. Revenge would have been easy, I said. I could have told Daniel who Richard was the moment Pinnacle appeared on our radar. I could have leaked his financial irregularities to the press. I could have done 100 things to destroy them. I didn't. Why? Mom asked. Because I'm not them. I looked at Sophia. I don't need to steal someone else's life to build my own. Daniel pulled out a document. This is Datatech's final offer for Pinnacle. Despite Richard's misconduct, we're honoring the purchase price. The money will go to creditors and investors first, but there should be enough left for you to start over. Modestly. That's generous, Richard managed. It's business. Madison Strategic Solutions will handle the transition. My wife insisted on making sure no employees lose their jobs because of your mistakes. You're saving his employees? Sophia looked stunned. They didn't betray anyone, I said simply. They just went to work every day and did their jobs. Why should they suffer for Richard's choices? The room was processing this new information, that I had the power to destroy them completely but chose not to. Daniel checked his watch. We have dinner reservations. Our real anniversary is tomorrow, 3 years since our first date, when Madison told me I was wrong about everything and then proved it with spreadsheets. That's the most romantic thing I've ever heard, Cousin Janet said, and she wasn't being sarcastic. As we prepared to leave, I had one last thing to say. Oh, Sophia, I paused at the door. There's one more thing. The consultant who flagged Richard's fraud? Her name is Jennifer Walsh. You might remember her. She was my maid of honor, the one you told Richard was trying to break us up. Sophia's face went white. Jennifer? She never forgot how you convinced her not to come to the wedding that never happened, said she'd never forgive herself for believing your lies about me. I smiled slightly. Funny how the universe works. She's Datatech's chief compliance officer now. You planned this, Richard said. But it wasn't an accusation anymore. It was almost admiration. I planned nothing. I just surrounded myself with good people who remember loyalty. I looked at the family. Jennifer found the fraud. Marcus's team verified it. Even cousin Tommy in banking. Remember him, Sophia? The one you said wasn't successful enough to invite to your wedding? He traced the offshore accounts. Tommy raised his glass from across the table. Just doing my job, Madison. All these people, Mom was putting it together. They all helped? They all succeeded, Daniel corrected. Madison has this way of lifting everyone around her. Your forgotten relatives, the ones not pretty enough or rich enough for Sophia's circle, they're all thriving. My company employs 12 family members you two ignored, I added. They're some of my best people. Sophia sank into her chair. You built an empire from the people I threw away. I built a family from the people you deemed unworthy. There's a difference. Mr. Morrison cleared his throat. Mrs. Chen, we need to discuss the transition timeline. Of course. I turned back one last time. Richard, you'll receive the full transition package tomorrow. I've assigned my best team to ensure it's smooth. Despite everything, I don't want to see you fail completely. That child deserves better. Why? Richard asked. Why help us at all? Because success isn't about crushing those who wronged you. It's about becoming someone they could never have imagined you'd be. I took Daniel's hand. And I became that person not because of what you did to me, but in spite of it. As we walked toward the door, I heard Dad speak for the second time that evening. Sophia Richard, his voice was firm, you owe Madison an apology, a real one. Sophia stood wobbly on her heels. Madison, Save it, I said, not unkindly. Apologies now would be about making you feel better, not about making amends. When you're ready to apologize because you understand what you did, not because you got caught, you know where to find me. Will you ever forgive us? She whispered. I considered the question. I already have, but forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It just means I'm not carrying your burden anymore. Daniel's legal team efficiently wrapped up the documentation. Richard signed every paper placed in front of him, his hand shaking slightly. The hostile takeover that wasn't hostile, just inevitable. Effective Monday, you'll report to Jennifer Walsh for the transition, Mr. Morrison explained. You have 6 weeks to hand over all projects and client relationships. Your replacement has already been selected from within, promoted from the team you consistently overlooked. Who? Richard asked weakly. Patricia Nguyen, the junior developer you passed over for promotion 5 times. I knew Patricia. She'd applied to my company last year, but I'd encouraged her to stay at Pinnacle knowing this was coming. She deserved to take Richard's office, not just find a new job. The severance package, Daniel added, is contingent on full cooperation and a clean transition. Any attempt to sabotage or poach clients will result in immediate termination and legal action. I understand, Richard mumbled. Sophia suddenly stood. What about me? What am I supposed to do? Whatever you want, I said. For the first time in your life, you'll have to figure it out yourself. But I don't know how to. I've never had to. Work, I suggested. Learn, struggle, all those things you watched me do while you laughed? Mom intervened. Madison, she's pregnant. Millions of women work while pregnant, Mom. Sophia will survive. I softened slightly. There's a program through Datatech for displaced families. Career counseling, job placement, temporary housing assistance. It's not luxury, but it's support. You'd help us? Sophia asked. The program would help you. It's available to all employees affected by acquisitions. I pulled out a card. Contact this number. Tell them Madison Chen referred you. She took the card with shaking fingers. This is really happening. Yes. The room watched as the reality sank in. The golden couple was tarnished beyond repair. The family dynamics that had held for a decade were shifting like tectonic plates. Uncle Pete spoke up. Madison, that merger you mentioned, will you be CEO? Co-CEO with Daniel for the first year, then sole CEO when he moves to the board. I smiled. He says I'm better at operations anyway. She's being modest, Daniel said. She's better at everything except golf. Because golf is boring, I countered, and for the first time all evening, felt genuinely relaxed. So you'll be running a billion-dollar company? Aunt Helen asked. 2 billion, after the merger, Daniel corrected. Madison's company is valued higher than mine, better profit margins. I watched Sophia process this, that I hadn't just survived, hadn't just succeeded, but had surpassed every measure of success she'd used to define herself. How? She whispered. How did you do it? One day at a time, one client at a time, one small victory at a time. I looked around the room. While you were curating a perfect life for Instagram, I was building something real. The legal team finished packing up. Daniel nodded to them, and they left quietly. The business was done. All that remained was family. The aftermath was immediate and brutal. I need to sit down, Richard said, and he looked genuinely ill. $2 million. I owe $2 million. That you stole, Daniel reminded him. The fact that we're not pressing charges is a gift. Cousin Marcus pulled out his phone. It's already on the business news. Datatech acquires Pinnacle Development in surprise takeover. Madison, your name is mentioned as lead consultant. Sophia grabbed the phone, reading rapidly. Her face crumbled. Everyone will know. All our friends, the country club, everyone. Your friends already knew Richard was in trouble, Aunt Helen said quietly. We all heard the rumors about Pinnacle's financial issues. We just didn't say anything. You knew? Sophia spun around. You all knew and didn't tell me? What would you have done? Dad asked. You wouldn't have listened. You never do when it comes to Richard. The family telegraph that had spread gossip about me for 10 years was already working in reverse. Phones were coming out, texts being sent. By morning, everyone in our extended network would know. The country club membership was in the company name, Richard realized. The cars too, even our credit cards. You have personal accounts, surely? Mom asked. Richard and Sophia exchanged a look that said everything. We lived off the corporate accounts, Sophia admitted. Richard said it was tax efficient. It was fraud efficient, I corrected. Harder to track personal expenses hidden in corporate spending. Jennifer Walsh had found it all. The vacations classified as business trips, the jewelry hidden as client gifts, the personal trainer billed as corporate wellness. Every luxury they'd flaunted had been stolen twice, once from me, once from the company. Where will we live? Sophia's voice was small. There's a 2-bedroom apartment included in the transition package, Daniel said. 6 months paid, then you're on your own. An apartment? She said it like it was a foreign word. It's nice, I said, in a safe neighborhood. Good schools nearby for the baby. You checked? I check everything, Sophia. It's why I'm successful. Tommy spoke up from his corner. I can help with financial planning, budgeting, debt management. It's what I do. The cousin you didn't invite to your wedding wants to help you, I pointed out. That's the difference between real family and the one you tried to create. Sophia was crying again, but these tears felt different, cleaner somehow, like she was finally washing away the facade. I don't know how to be poor, she whispered. You're not poor, I said firmly. You're starting over. There's a difference, and starting over is something I know everything about. Daniel pulled up something on his tablet. Let me be very clear about the numbers so there's no confusion later. He showed the screen to Richard and Sophia. Pinnacle Development sold for $30 million. After debts, taxes, and the fraud repayment, you'll receive approximately $300,000. That's all? Richard's voice cracked. That's generous, Daniel corrected. Most corporate fraud cases end with jail time and complete asset forfeiture. You're walking away with enough to start fresh. But our lifestyle was built on stolen money and lies, I finished. 300,000 is more than most people see in a decade. It's enough if you're smart. Madison started her company with $5,000, Mom said suddenly. I remember because I offered to lend her money, and she refused. 5,000? Sophia stared at me. You built all this from $5,000? And a lot of 100-hour weeks. I pulled out my phone, showing them something. This was my first office. It was a photo of my studio apartment, laptop on a card table, papers everywhere, a sleeping bag in the corner. This was year 2. Another photo, a tiny shared workspace, one desk, still the same laptop. Year 3. A small office, 3 employees, everyone crammed together. And this is now. The final photo. Our headquarters, glass and steel, the Madison Strategic Solutions logo prominent. 5 years, Daniel said. She did that in 5 years. While you were redecorating your house for the 3rd time, I added. Richard was doing math on his phone. 300,000. If we're careful. If you get jobs, I corrected. Both of you. But Sophia's never worked, Richard protested. Then she'll learn. Millions of people do it every day. Jennifer had texted me privately. The forensic accounting is worse than we showed. He's lucky we're not pursuing criminal charges. I didn't share that. Let them think this was rock bottom. They didn't need to know how much worse it could have been. Madison, Sophia said suddenly, will you teach me? Teach you what? How to build something. How to be real. I studied her face. For the first time in 10 years, she looked like my sister again. Not the polished trophy wife, but the scared girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. No, I said gently. But Tommy will, and Jennifer, and all the other people you ignored who became successful without stealing anything. Why won't you? Because you need to learn that I'm not your safety net anymore. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your anything. I'm just someone who used to know you. The words hung in the air like a final verdict. As Daniel and I gathered our things to leave, Mom stood up. Madison, wait, please. I paused, hand on Daniel's arm. I failed you, she said simply. 10 years ago, I told you to be the bigger person, to let it go, to keep the peace. I chose family harmony over justice, and I'm sorry. Mom, no, let me finish. I watched Sophia parade around in your life while you rebuilt alone. I made excuses for her because it was easier than confronting the truth. That stops now. She turned to Sophia. You're my daughter and I love you, but what you did was cruel, and you've been cruel ever since, rubbing salt in a wound you created. Mom, You were just being yourself, Mom finished. And that's the problem. Dad stood beside Mom. Madison, we're proud of you, not for the success or the money, but for becoming someone of integrity despite what happened to you. Because of what happened, I corrected. I became who I am because I had to. Rock bottom was my foundation. Will you come to family dinners? Mom asked. Without them, I mean. I looked at Sophia and Richard, who seemed to shrink under my gaze. Family isn't just blood, Mom. It's the people who show up, who support you, who celebrate your victories without jealousy and comfort your defeats without judgment. I gestured around the room. Tommy, Marcus, Jennifer, they're my family. They earned that title. And us? Dad asked. You're my parents. I love you. But rebuilding our relationship will take time and effort, real effort, not just showing up to dinners and pretending everything's fine. We understand, Mom said. I turned to address the room one last time. For 10 years, this family has operated on a simple principle. Keep the peace at any cost. Don't rock the boat. Pretend everything's fine. That ends tonight. What are you saying? Aunt Helen asked. I'm saying that silence in the face of cruelty is complicity. Every one of you who knew what Sophia did and said nothing, who watched her mock me year after year and stayed quiet, you were part of the problem. But family, someone started. Family should mean higher standards, not lower ones. Family should mean calling out bad behavior, not enabling it. Family should mean protecting each other from harm, not from consequences. I took Daniel's hand. So here's my boundary. I'll have relationships with family members who can acknowledge what happened and commit to better. The rest of you can keep your comfortable silence and your toxic peace. I want no part of it. Madison, Sophia said desperately, please, we're sisters. We're strangers who share DNA, I repeated. And that's all we'll be until you earn the right to be anything more. With that, Daniel and I walked out, leaving behind 40 relatives and a decade of unfinished business. So that's my story. 10 years of patience, 3 years of secret happiness, and one dinner that changed everything. I often wonder what would have happened if I'd revealed my marriage earlier, or if I'd never attended that reunion at all. But I believe everything happened exactly when it needed to. What would you have done? Would you have helped your pregnant sister despite the betrayal? Would you have revealed your success sooner, or kept it hidden like I did? Share your thoughts below. And if you know someone who needs to hear that success is the best response to betrayal, share this story with them. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming someone your enemies could never have imagined you'd be.